She was just a cargo pilot, sitting quietly among the passengers. Then the captain screamed, "Mayday," and collapsed. The plane began falling from the sky. She rushed to the cockpit and took control. When the F-22s heard her old call sign on the radio, they responded with total shock. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. It was a normal Tuesday morning at Denver International Airport. The sky was clear and blue. People walked to their gates with coffee in their hands. No one knew that today would become a day they would never forget. Among the passengers walking to Gate 22 was a woman named Maria Torres. She wore a plain gray jacket and carried a small black bag. Her hair was tied back in a simple bun. She looked tired, like someone who had worked all night. No one looked at her twice. To everyone around her, she was just another traveler going home. Maria took her seat, 14C, a window seat near the wing. She liked window seats. She always had, ever since she was a young girl. The man next to her, an older gentleman in a business suit, smiled at her. "Flying home or flying out?" he asked. "Home," Maria said softly. "I fly cargo planes. Just finished a night run." "Cargo pilot, huh? Must be quiet work. No passengers to worry about." Maria smiled but said nothing more. She did not tell him the truth. The truth was much bigger than a cargo route. The truth was locked away in files that most people would never be allowed to read. 10 years ago, Maria was not flying boxes across the country. She was flying fighter jets over war zones. She served in the United States Air Force for 12 years. She flew the F-22 Raptor, one of the fastest and most powerful jets ever built. Her call sign back then was Ghost. Pilots who flew with her said she could fly a jet like it was part of her own body. She led missions that saved soldiers on the ground. She flew through storms and danger that would scare most pilots away. But none of that was written in any public record. Her missions were classified. Her name was known only inside small rooms where only a few people were allowed to enter. 3 years ago, Maria left the Air Force. She had lost 2 friends in a mission that went wrong. After that, she felt tired in a way that sleep could not fix. She wanted a quiet life. So she became a cargo pilot, flying boxes and packages through the night sky, alone in a cockpit, away from danger, away from memories. She told almost no one about her past. Not her neighbors. Not her new co-workers. Only a locked box in her closet held the medals she never wore. The flight attendants moved down the aisle, checking seat belts and closing overhead bins. The lead flight attendant, a woman named Diane, stopped near Maria's row. "Anything to drink before takeoff?" Diane asked. "Just water, please," Maria said. "You said you're a pilot?" Diane asked, noticing the small wing pin on Maria's jacket. "Cargo," Maria answered. "Nothing exciting." "Well, you are in good hands today," Diane said with a smile. "Captain Reeves has flown for this airline for 20 years. Very steady pilot." Maria nodded. She had no doubt Captain Reeves was skilled. Flying passenger planes and flying fighter jets were 2 very different jobs. Both needed skill, but in very different ways. She respected that difference. She was not here to judge anyone. She was just a tired passenger going home. The plane pushed back from the gate at 9 in the morning. The engines came alive with their familiar hum. The plane rolled slowly toward the runway, joining a line of other aircraft waiting for takeoff. A few minutes later, Captain Reeves spoke over the speaker. "Good morning, everyone. This is your captain speaking. We are 3rd in line for takeoff. Weather looks calm all the way to Chicago. Flight time today is about 3 hours and 30 minutes. Sit back and relax." The plane lifted off smoothly. Denver's mountains grew smaller below the window. Maria watched the wing outside her seat, the way she always did. Old habits do not disappear, even after leaving a job behind. For the first hour, everything was calm. Passengers read books, watched movies, or slept. The man beside Maria opened his laptop and began typing. The cabin felt peaceful, the kind of peace that comes only in the sky, far from the noise of the ground. Then Maria noticed something. A small change in the sound of the engines. It was so small that no one else in the cabin seemed to notice. But Maria's ears were trained to catch small changes like this. She sat up straighter and looked out the window. The wing looked normal. But something did not feel right. A minute later, she felt it again. A soft shake through the floor of the plane. Then it happened once more, a little stronger this time. The intercom crackled on. Captain Reeves's voice came through, still calm, but with a small shake in it that most people would not notice. Maria noticed it right away. "Folks, this is the captain. We are having a small technical issue up here. As a safety step, we will be flying at a lower altitude. Please return to your seats and buckle up. Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin." Some passengers barely looked up. Others began to whisper nervously. The man beside Maria closed his laptop. "Is everything okay?" he asked her. "They are being careful," Maria said gently. "That is their job." But inside, Maria's mind was working fast. A technical issue serious enough to force a lower altitude was not a small thing. She had seen many kinds of trouble in the sky before. Her body remembered how to stay calm even when her mind raced through every possible danger. Then the plane dropped suddenly. It was not a gentle drop. It was sharp and sudden. Bags fell from overhead bins. People screamed. The man's laptop slid off his lap and crashed onto the floor. The plane tilted to one side, and passengers slid in their seats. Somewhere behind Maria, a child began to cry. "What is happening?" a woman shouted from a few rows back. Diane's voice came over the speaker, trying to sound calm but clearly shaken. "Everyone please stay seated with your belts fastened. We are experiencing some turbulence." But Maria knew this was not turbulence. Turbulence does not move a plane like that. This was something wrong with the controls. She unbuckled her seat belt and stood up. She walked steadily toward the front of the plane, moving with the balance of someone who had been through far worse. "Ma'am, please sit down," a flight attendant called out. Maria kept walking. She reached the front galley where Diane stood, holding the intercom phone with shaking hands. "I am a pilot," Maria said, her voice calm but firm. "Tell me what is happening." Before Diane could answer, a voice came through the cockpit speaker, weak but urgent. It was Captain Reeves. "Mayday, Mayday. This is Flight 512. We have a control failure and I am not feeling well. Requesting immediate assistance." Then silence. Diane's face turned pale. That was the captain. He just called Mayday. "Something is wrong." "Open the cockpit door," Maria said. "Now." Something in her voice made Diane obey without question. She unlocked the door, and Maria stepped inside. Captain Reeves was slumped forward in his seat, unconscious, his hand still near the radio switch. He had called for help with the last of his strength before losing consciousness. The first officer, a young man named Carter, gripped the controls with both hands. Sweat covered his face. Warning lights blinked across the instrument panel. "I'm a pilot," Maria said, stepping closer. "Talk to me. What happened?" "He called Mayday and then just went down," Carter said, his voice shaking. "Grabbed his chest, said the controls felt wrong, made the call, and then he passed out. The controls really are acting strange. I have very little control over the plane. It keeps pulling down." Maria's eyes moved quickly across the instruments. Hydraulic pressure was falling. Airspeed was rising. Altitude was dropping fast. "What is our altitude and speed?" she asked. 27,000 feet, and we're still going down. Speed is climbing too fast. Maria did not hesitate. "I am taking control. Move to the side seat." "You're not certified on this aircraft," Carter said. "I have flown planes far harder to control than this one," Maria said. "Move now, or help me." "Your choice." Carter moved without another word. Maria slid into the captain's seat and placed her hands on the controls. She felt it immediately. The controls felt soft and slow, like the plane did not want to obey. This was serious. A major hydraulic failure, maybe more than one system failing at once. "Get on the radio," Maria told Carter. "Tell them we have an unconscious captain and control problems. We need help fast." Carter grabbed the radio. His voice shook, but he spoke clearly. "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This is Flight 512. We have an unconscious captain and serious control problems. We are descending and need immediate help." The response came fast. "Flight 512, we hear your Mayday. How many people on board, and how much fuel do you have?" 190 passengers and crew. "Fuel is about 40,000 pounds, Carter answered. Maria worked the controls with both hands, feeling every small movement of the plane. She reduced engine power slowly, trying to slow the plane's fall without making the controls fight back harder. She had flown broken jets before. She knew how to work with damage instead of against it. "Flight 512, nearest airport for emergency landing is Kansas City. Turn right, heading 090, and descend to 10,000 feet." Maria began the turn carefully. The plane leaned slowly, the controls stiff under her hands. "Hydraulic System 1 is at 0, Carter reported, reading from a screen. "System 2 is dropping too." "How is the captain?" Maria asked. Carter checked Reeves quickly. "Still breathing. Pulse is weak but there." Maria spoke into the cabin speaker. "This is the cockpit. We have the situation under control, but we are heading to Kansas City for an emergency landing. Please stay seated and follow the flight attendant's instructions." In the cabin, fear spread quickly. Some passengers cried. Others held hands and prayed. But Maria could not think about that now. Her only job was to bring this plane safely to the ground. Then the radio crackled again. "Flight 512, be advised, 2 F-22 fighter jets are being sent from a nearby base to fly beside you and assist." Maria's hands tightened slightly on the controls. The F-22, her old aircraft, the plane she once knew better than any other machine in the sky. For a brief second, old memories rushed back. Then she pushed them away and focused on the moment in front of her. The plane continued its slow, careful descent. Maria fought the controls the entire way, making small corrections again and again. Every second required focus. Every movement mattered. A new voice came over the radio. "Flight 512, this is Hunter 1. 2 F-22s are on your wing now. We are here to help guide you in." "Hunter 1, Flight 512, Maria answered. "We have very limited control. Please stay close." "Copy that. We'll stay with you the whole way." As the 2 F-22s slid into position beside the large passenger plane, Maria could see them clearly through the cockpit window. Small, sharp, and powerful jets, flying steady beside the heavy airliner. "Flight 512, Hunter 1. May I ask, are you a former military pilot? Your voice sounds trained." Maria paused for a moment. Then she answered honestly. "A long time ago. I flew the F-22, among other things." The radio went quiet for a few seconds. Then Hunter 1 spoke again, his voice different now, more careful. "Ma'am, for confirmation, what was your call sign? Maria took a slow breath. She had not said this name in 3 years. Call sign was Ghost. The radio came alive with sudden energy. Did you say Ghost? As in Captain Maria Torres? That is correct, Maria said simply. There was a pause, and then Hunter One's voice returned, filled with something like respect. Ma'am, this is an honor. We have your wing. Whatever you need. The second pilot added, I studied your training reports at the academy. It is amazing to fly beside you today. Maria felt a small lump form in her throat, but she pushed it down. There was still work to do. I need altitude and speed calls, she said. My instruments are not fully reliable. Copy. You are at 12,000 feet, descending steadily. Speed is 240 knots. Kansas City is 30 miles ahead. Maria kept working the controls, guiding the heavy plane down through the sky, step by step. Carter called out checklist items beside her, his voice steadier now, calmed by watching her handle the emergency with such control. Flight 512, Kansas City Tower. You are cleared for emergency landing, runway 19. Emergency crews are standing by along the runway. Copy, Tower, Carter answered. Be advised, we have very limited control. There is a chance we may leave the runway after landing. Understood. All emergency crews are in position. Maria began lowering the flaps slowly, one small step at a time, feeling how each change affected the plane's balance. The F-22s stayed close, calling out altitude and speed with steady voices. 5,000 feet. 15 miles out. Speed 210, Hunter One said. Maria's hands were steady, even as sweat formed on her forehead. She had landed damaged jets before under worse conditions. She could do this too. 2,000 feet. 5 miles. Speed 180. The runway came into view ahead, lined with flashing lights from fire trucks and ambulances. 1,000 feet. 2 miles. Looking good. Maria spoke into the cabin one last time. This is the cockpit. Brace for landing. Brace, brace, brace. 500 feet. 1 mile. Speed 155. The runway rushed closer. Maria eased back gently, feeling for the ground the way she had felt for 1,000 runways and landing strips before. The wheels touched down with a firm bump. She pulled the brakes and reverse thrust, fighting the plane's pull to one side with careful, steady movements. The plane rolled down the runway, slowing bit by bit, drifting slightly but never leaving the paved surface. At last, it came to a full stop in the middle of the runway, surrounded by flashing emergency lights. Maria shut down the engines and set the parking brake. Her hands were shaking now, the adrenaline finally leaving her body. She turned to Carter, who stared at her with wide eyes. That was amazing, he said quietly. How did you do that? Maria did not answer right away. She simply breathed, letting the tension slowly fade. Then she unbuckled and checked on Captain Reeves, who was stirring but still weak. Get the paramedics in here, she said firmly. The cockpit door opened, and Diane stood there, tears in her eyes. You saved us. All of us. Who are you? Maria did not answer that question either. She was already thinking about what would come next. The questions. The attention. The end of her quiet life as a cargo pilot. Outside, the two F-22s circled once above the airport before turning back toward their base. Their pilots would carry this story home, and soon every fighter pilot in the country would know that Ghost had returned, if only for one day. As Maria stepped down onto the runway, reporters and airport staff gathered around her. Passengers wept and hugged each other, thankful to be alive. Captain Reeves was placed carefully into an ambulance, breathing steadily, expected to recover. A reporter pushed forward with a microphone. Is it true you are a former fighter pilot? Is it true your call sign was Ghost? Maria looked at the reporter, then at the crowd of passengers behind her, then up at the sky where the F-22s had just disappeared into the clouds. Yes, she said simply. That was who I was. How does it feel to be a hero today? The reporter asked. Maria thought about Captain Reeves fighting for his life in the ambulance. She thought about the frightened passengers who would go home to their families tonight. She thought about the two young pilots who had flown beside her, honored simply to be near her. I am not a hero, she said quietly. I am just a pilot who did her job. But even as she said it, she knew it was not the full truth. The passengers knew it was not true. Carter knew it was not true. The pilots flying home in their F-22s knew it too. She was Ghost, one of the finest pilots the Air Force had ever trained. And today, she had shown that once you learn to fly through fear, you never truly forget how. The sun moved higher over Kansas City as fire trucks and ambulances slowly cleared away. The damaged plane sat quietly on the runway, its passengers safe, its crew alive. Somewhere above the clouds, 2 fighter jets flew home, carrying a story that would be told for years to come. Maria stood on the tarmac, tired but calm. Tomorrow there would be interviews, questions, maybe even offers from every airline in the country. But tonight, she was simply a pilot who had done what she was trained to do. She had brought everyone home safely. Just like always.